And now it's time for the real news with your host, Farron.
Hello and welcome today to the Real News, your weekly call-in broadcast where we report the news the mainstream controlled media refuses to report, and where we discuss the complete failure of our government and the wholesale sellout of the middle class, our economy, and our children's future. This week, the Democrats in Congress, without a single Republican vote, passed a darn near $1 trillion stimulus bill after we have all witnessed that the last stimulus bill was a complete failure. And after we have seen plainly that the banker bailout was nothing more than an in-your-face complete looting of the American people to fat cat Wall Street criminals and banking corrupt traders. And here we go again, being sold a pack of bold-faced lies that we can stimulate our way out of years of reckless, wasteful, intentional economic destruction. President Bush actually said we have to suspend the free market system to save the free market system. That makes about as much sense as saying I have to give you AIDS to cure you of AIDS. And now as our media-made so-called messiah, Obama, leads us further down the economic black hole of no return, let's see what's in this socialistic doomed-to-fail so-called stimulus package. $20 million for the removal of small to medium-sized fish passage barriers, page 45 of the Senate Appropriations Committee report. $400 million for STD prevention, page 60 of the Senate Appropriations Committee report. $25 million to rehabilitate off-road ATV trails, page 45 of the Senate Appropriations Committee report. $34 million to remodel the Department of Commerce headquarters, page 15 of the Senate Appropriations Committee report. $70 million to support supercomputing activities for climate research, page 14 through 15 of the Senate Appropriations Committee report. $150 million for honeybee insurance, page 102 of the Senate Appropriations Committee report. Secretary shall use up to $50 million per year and $150 million per year in the case of 2009 from the trust fund to provide emergency relief to eligible producers of livestock, honeybees, and farm-raised fish to aid in the reduction of losses due to disease, adverse weather, or other conditions such as blizzard and wildfires as determined by the Secretary. And to top it off, Wall Street executives gave themselves some $20 billion in bonuses, about the same amount they gave themselves back in 2004. This would almost be humorous if it wasn't so serious, and more amazingly is the fact that the neutered American public sits back and accepts this embezzlement of our economic future. Young people listening to this broadcast, you will spend the rest of your lifetime trying to undo the damage being done to our country right now by Washington. I live for the day that people wake up and realize the degree of robbery and treachery that has been done openly right in front of their face. This travesty, just this bill alone, will cost every American over $3,300, not to mention the over $8 trillion that has been spent that went largely unreported. If the government wanted to help the economy, how about suspending the federal income tax withholding immediately, giving everyone a 28% pay raise in their checks? How about repeal all the bureaucracy that stands in the way of all small businesses and suspend the capital gains taxes? But no, that wouldn't enslave the people with massive debt. No, that would actually help the middle class. Obviously, we can't have that. Government will continue to sell the idea through their puppet media that they are the solution, they are the savior, they have the answer, when the whole time they caused the implosion. This is by design. With the repeal of the Glass-Steagall Act and the corrupt Federal Reserve banking system, with an unbacked fiat paper currency, with their plant-closing, job-eliminating traitorous NAFTA and CAFTA, they have purposely exported our manufacturing jobs and imported an army of illegal aliens to compete for the jobs that remain. Now we are entering the beginning of the end game. We would never accept a new economic order, gun confiscation, and the loss of our sovereignty, and this gigantic step into socialism without the economic collapse to force us to accept what otherwise would be unacceptable. I say we resist this oppression, prepare your family for tough times, and refuse to be a slave to this tyranny being fostered upon our society by a power-mad, out-of-control, spin-happy, one-world government group of elitists bent on the destruction of our sovereignty and our country. It is high time we rise up and take our city, our county, our state, and our country back and restore some common sense to our nation. We purposely didn't schedule a guest today so we can cover more news and take more phone calls, and we will go to the phones in a few minutes. And to begin, Brian, any comments before you lead us into our first news segment? I think that you were going to comment on the 1999 Financial Services Modernization Act.
Yes, this is vital to our understanding of our current economic situation. I've discussed this previously here on the broadcast, but I want to take some time here this morning to go into this in much more detail. These are excerpts of a guest we had on, a month ago, Michel Kosadovsky, of economics professor of the University of Ottawa. The Graham-Leach-Bliley Financial Services Modernization Act of 1999. The 1999 Financial Services Modernization Act, FSMA, also repealed the Glass-Steagall Act of 1933. A pillar of President Roosevelt's New Deal, the Glass-Steagall Act was put in place in response to the climate of corruption, financial manipulation, and insider trading, which resulted in more than 5,000 bank failures in the years following the 1929 Wall Street crash. Under the 1999 Financial Services Modernization Act, effective control over the entire U.S. financial services industry, including insurance companies, pension funds, securities companies, etc., had been transferred to a handful of financial conglomerates and their associated hedge funds, combining formerly segregated commercial and investment banking. One of the principal architects was Lawrence Summers, President Obama's top economic advisor, head of the National Economic Council, Harvard University economics professor, who also served as chief economist for the World Bank from 1991 to 1993. He contributed to shaping the macroeconomic reforms imposed on numerous indebted developing countries. The social and economic impact of these reforms under the IMF World Bank-sponsored Structural Adjustment Program were devastating, resulting in mass poverty. Larry Summers' stint at the World Bank coincided with the collapse of the Soviet Union and the implosion of the IMF World Bank's deadly economic medicine on Eastern Europe, the former Soviet republics, and the Balkans. Larry Summers became Treasury Secretary in July 1999. He is also a protege of David Rockefeller. What happened in October 1999 is crucial. In the wake of lengthy negotiations behind closed doors in Wall Street boardrooms, Larry Summers played a central role. The regulatory restraints on Wall Street's powerful banking conglomerates were revoked with the stroke of a pen. Larry Summers worked closely with Senator Phil Gramm, chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, who was the legislative architect of the Graham-Leach-Bliley Financial Services Modernization Act, signed into law on November 12, 1999. Phil Gramm was also closely associated with Enron. Under the new rules, commercial banks, brokerage firms, hedge funds, institutional investors, pension funds, and insurance companies could freely invest in each other's businesses as well as fully integrate their financial operations. A global financial supermarket had been created, setting the stage for a massive concentration of financial power. Summers described the Act as the legislative foundation of the financial system of the 21st century. That legislative foundation is among the main causes of the 2008 financial meltdown. In December 2000, at the very end of Clinton's mandate, Gramm introduced a second piece of legislation, the so-called Gramm-Lugar Commodity Futures Modernization Act, which paved the way for the speculative onslaught in primary commodities, including oil and food staples. The act, he declared, would ensure that neither the SEC or the Commodity Futures Trading Commission got in the business of regulating newfangled financial products called swaps, and would thus protect financial